Bringing in outside art. Let's learn about how to get images into your Photoshop project. Whether it comes from the web, a digital camera, or a scanner, opening a file is easy. Just go to File, Open from the menu bar, or press Command or Control O, and that will bring up a dialog box where you can open up your files. Mac users can drag the file directly onto the Photoshop icon in the dock. Alternatively, you can drag the file directly into the Photoshop tab bar, and it will go wherever on the tab bar you placed it. To import a file, go to File, Place Embedded, or Place Linked. I highly recommend using Place Embedded since that keeps everything in one Photoshop PSD. When you link a file, you will need to make sure it travels along with the Photoshop file. And sometimes that's hard to manage. So it's a lot of times easier just to have one file that you're working on. And that's generally how most Photoshop users work anyway. If you drag a file into the Photoshop canvas, it will be placed as an embedded object as well. If this doesn't create a smart object for you, go to Settings, General, and make sure that Always Create Smart Objects When Placing is selected. So why not just copy and paste? Well, there are a few advantages to copying and pasting. Obviously, it's one and done. Some tools only work on pixels as well. For example, the brush, the healing brush, or the clone tool, they won't work at all on smart objects. You'll need to have access to the actual pixels. But for the most part, there's a lot of disadvantages to using copy and paste instead of working with smart objects. Like when you resize pixels, it's always going to resample it. So if you're resizing it down, usually not a problem. But if you try to take something small and make it bigger, Photoshop is having to invent pixels, and sometimes it doesn't do a super terrific job, which is why I showed you smart objects in the first week of class. So it's so important that we use those instead of just working on the pixels. And it's one of the key differentiators in Photoshop. So if you're not using smart objects, you're really not getting the full benefit of the Photoshop workflow.